Welcome to TaNaCh Talk. I'm your host, William Hall, broadcasting live out of Kingsland, Texas, USA, with another episode of Two Guys Destroying Christianity with my dear friend in arms, Greg Slurad McBride. And Sir Clicks a lot.
William. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing, brother? Oh boy,
Hey.
That's funny. You just can't resist, can you?
No, I cannot
You
resist.
really cannot resist
The
dancing.
music moves me, baby. It moves me.
It sure does.
I can barely move.
That's funny. That's funny.
Because I am over 40 years old.
Yeah, you're like 90, aren't you?
I'm
No.
just over 40. I'm not alive.
I tell people I just celebrated my 35th anniversary of my 20th birthday. That's how you stay out of it.
Ooh, that's I gotta add significantly to that. But
That's great. Okay, so
really, what I have to add to that, though, in the total scheme of human history, is not that much.
right. That's funny. You're cracking me up, man. Okay, so we're going to hit 119 Ministries and
119 Ministries. Yes, before we start, I always give the missionary groups chance to come on the show.
Sure.
And to respond. They declined because they do not have the resources to do that. So
which is interesting. Resources,
not
not meaning money, but people resources.
I assume they mean people because they got a pretty big website.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
typically, usually when people say that, that's just their excuse. They don't want to come on because they're not equipped to do so. They're equipped, psychologically or like intellectually, and it's just true. Yeah. I mean, when I was approached with this years ago, I was not psychologically equipped for it at all. I had no clue how to answer this stuff, and that's kind of where they're at now. So, but no big deal. So, but these guys are Messianic. Am I correct?
Oh, yes.
Yep, very Messianic and not mainstream Christianity, but they're still Christian. They don't like to call themselves that. But
correct.
And to be clear, if you're Messianic, if you believe in any New Testament Messiah figure, you're a Christian. That's what being a Christian is. It's not whether you celebrate the feast or whether you wear a yarmulke or a tzitzit, or it's about who you believe in. And I know you say, well, we don't believe in Jesus. Well, it doesn't matter. You believe in the New Testament representation of a Messiah. Yeah. That's Christian.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's hard to, if you say you believe in Jesus Christ, you believe in Jesus Messiah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Messianics wouldn't say it that way, though.
Yeah, but they just are choosing to turn a blind eye to 2,000 years of Christian history.
Yes, that's true.
I mean, that's it. I mean, Christos means Messiah or anointed in Greek.
The Messianic movement is new. I mean, almost brand new, like it's 1960s, 1970s.
Correct.
So,
yes.
I mean, so if you made something up that late, you can't think that you've been around. It's always been that way.
So their posit is that for 2,000 years, Christianity had it wrong.
Right.
But now they understand it, and now they have it right.
Yeah.
But that flies in the face of everything in the rest of Christianity. And never forget, Protestants don't like this. I'm in negotiation with a kind of a big shot preacher right now to come on the show, and he doesn't believe the Catholic Church. And I said, well, you don't get that choice because there's no Protestant Reformation without the Catholic Church. And who was the real church in 800?
So he's basically rejecting that he and all Christianity comes from the Catholic Church. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They just never. Yeah, they never.
Interesting.
Yes, and that's really that's the position of. Well, it wasn't the position of the reformers.
Yeah.
But it's the position of the new. They're not Messianic because they don't do anything Jewish, but they're also another real Christianity because they never participated in pogroms against the Jews or anything. That was the Catholics. that they're not part of that.
Right.
But they are. It's like you're stuck with this. You don't have any choice because you do not exist. I would challenge any preacher, and I know I do this and it's futile, but I still like to do it because I would challenge any preacher to come on the show and explain to me how they are not a descendant of the Catholic Church.
Right.
That'd be great, and if maybe I'm wrong, maybe they know how I am incorrect, and they'd be welcome to come and show how that would be. So
it's kind of like that.
119 Ministries is obviously they're taking their title from the 119th Psalm. So let's see what these boys have got, shall we?
Let's do it. All right, here we go.
Is the law of Moses, the Torah, relevant to Christians today? Well, that depends on who you ask. If you ask Jesus, or Yeshua, as he is called in Hebrew, the answer would be yes. In Matthew 5:17.
Let's stop right there. Yeah.
I was thinking he never called himself Yeshua. No one ever called him Yeshua. That's a bunch of nonsense.
That's true. Yeah. Good catch there. Yeah. Let's go to Matthew 5:17. This is not like cryptic in any way. I'm reading out of a King James Bible. And Jesus does say that not one jot or tittle of the law will disappear until all things are done, till the age to the world to come. That's what he says. But listen to what Jesus says in the 21st verse of chapter 5 and the 22nd verse. Now remember, Jesus just got nothing's going to change. The law of Moses doesn't change. All right. Verse 21, ye have heard that it was said by them of old time, thou shalt not kill, and whoever shall kill shall be in danger of the judgment. But I say unto you that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. And whoever shall say to his brother, Raka, or you fool, shall be in danger of the council. But whosoever shall say, thou fool, to his brother, shall be in danger of hellfire. If you say to your brother, now these are the red letters.
What verse were you just reading from? Sorry.
22.
Okay, gotcha.
22
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Of chapter 5.
There we go. Okay.
So, okay, where does the Torah of Moses? We'll just call it the Torah of Moses, because you can call it the Torah of Moses. The rabbis call it the Torah of Moses, the law of Moses. Where does the law of Moses say that if you call your brother a fool, you go to hell? Where does the law of Moses teach about eternal hell?
Right.
I'll give you a hint if you're interested. Nowhere. There's no such thing in the Hebrew Bible as a place of eternal damnation, where there is weeping and gnashing of teeth. So I would hope that we could get past that Jesus didn't change the. Let me ask you a question, William.
Okay.
Is adding to the law changing the law?
To be fair, not necessarily, because the Christians would like to say the Talmud, that they've added to the law, but they don't. They're explaining what the laws mean.
Correct. Yes, this is the huge difference. The Hebrew Bible is very explicit. 3 times the Hebrew Bible tells you that you cannot add to or detract from the Torah. You cannot do it.
Right.
Jesus is not Talmuding the Torah here.
Right. He's adding something new.
He's adding to the Torah.
Yes.
Because it is unknown to the Hebrew children this idea of eternal hell. But Jesus says that all you have to do to be in danger of this eternal hellfire is to call your brother a fool. That is nowhere in the Torah.
Right.
It just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So, and there is no such name in the Christian Bible as Yeshua. Can we get past that also? And again, send me your emails and show me what a fool I am, because I will categorically say that the name Yeshua or Yahashua does not exist in the Christian Bible. So please, I think you should stop calling your God by a name that does not exist. Like you should probably stop celebrating feast days that do not exist in your Bible. See Easter and Christ Mass if you're so inclined, or show me where those holidays exist in your Christian Bible.
In Matthew 5:17-20, Yeshua said that the whole law of Moses will endure as long as heaven and earth exist, and urged his followers to obey and teach even the least of the commandments. So, according to Yeshua, the Torah remains relevant to Christians today. However...
Stop right there for a second. A verse just hit my head.
Okay, sure.
Romans chapter 10, verse 4.
Okay.
Jesus is the end of the law.
Okay, that's a bad translation, but yeah.
Well, but that is a bad translation, but that's what it's rendered in the most popular Christian translation.
That is true. The Greek term for that is target.
Is goal.
Goal and target.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So, but I'll read verbatim from the authorized King James Version.
King Jimmy. We got trust Uncle Jimmy.
Yep. For Christ is, Romans chapter 10, verse 4.
Yeah.
For Christ is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone that believeth.
So the Messianics are correct on this. The Christians are wrong.
Well, they are. Yes. Yeah, they are in essence. But again, the king, this is, it'd be like the Torah not knowing the difference between Moses and Caleb.
Yeah.
Or confusing something like that.
Right.
Something that's very, well, it's not even as important. That's probably not even as important. It would be like the Torah getting one of the commandments wrong.
Yeah. Right.
And this is in your King James Bible, and don't give me about well, that's another, we'll go further.
Okay. You just pulled up beep. You sure did. We know a lot of people like that.
I'll try to behave. But the Romans 10:4, that's, that got preached in the church I was in.
Yeah.
That was preached because we didn't know it was wrong.
It goes very well with Romans 2:13. It says, not the hearers of the law are justified before God, but the doers of the law shall be justified. So Paul was definitely all over the place in the New Testament.
Oh, yeah. So
okay, continuing on.
Yep,
all right,
continuing on.
All right.
However, not everyone agrees. Some say that Christians should have nothing to do with the law. For instance, Andrew Farley, a popular Christian author and teacher, writes the following.
Sorry, stop a minute.
Sure.
I did, every time I hear this guy's name, I think Chris Farley.
I thought that's oh yeah, I remember that. That's funny, Andrew Farley. That's funny.
Yeah, he died a tragic death, but he was hilarious.
He was
Go ahead.
Funny. Okay. There we go.
Quote, "It's crucial to realize that the law and Jesus just don't mix." This statement from Farley seems to directly contradict Yeshua's clear statement on the matter in Matthew 5:17-20. How does he come to this radical conclusion? Well, Farley supports his assertion.
Stop a second. So it should be telling to you that these guys call a Christian who says that Jesus and the law don't mix a radical conclusion.
Yeah, right.
That that is the conclusion of 98% of Christendom.
Mm-hmm.
So again, these guys should be a little more sympathetic to their own theology, or the church that carries their theology. It's again, 30 years ago, you could walk into any church and say Jesus and the law don't mix. Christians don't keep. Nobody would have said anything. Nothing. Nobody. When you were in the church, did you know what kosher food was?
No, never heard of it, actually.
I had never.
I've heard the phrase kosher in funny shows. That's not kosher.
We used it as that's not
secular.
That's the only thing.
Yeah,
I had
terms.
no clue that was a Jewish. That was a Jewish commandment.
In fact, when I finally saw on the shelf at the grocery store at Safeway, a container of kosher salt, I finally was like, oh, that's what kosher means. It's referring to salt.
Oh, that's what I thought too.
That's crazy.
And, okay, this is so. I got the privilege of driving Rabbi Singer from Cincinnati to Dallas when he had his debate in Dallas.
Yeah, I'm so sorry for him.
Just
kidding. I'm just kidding. I would love to have been in the back seat on that.
He was so ready to get out of the car. When he got
No, I doubt that.
Man, I thought I talked a lot, but this McBride guy he doesn't ever shut up. No,
that's funny.
He showed me the symbol on Seifert's, or not Seifert's, it's Lay's potato chips. That means they're kosher.
It's a hexure, yeah.
I never even knew that. That was I guess that was just a couple, 3 years ago that I didn't even know that. But okay, go ahead.
Yeah. There's
these guys.
Real quickly. So whenever we were in the very first debate that I saw Rabbi Singer at, Rabbi Federo and I got to drive across Houston to get to a restaurant, and the traffic was pretty. It took us like about 45 minutes to an hour to get like just a few miles down the road. But man, I tell you, I wished I had recorded that conversation. It was just absolutely amazing. It was great. It was just talk. It was always talking about TaNaCh, and the Christian the Christian Bible. It was pretty wild. So okay, here we go. Let me. I'm gonna back up about 5 seconds or 10 or whatever this gives me when I push one button. Here we go.
Just back up to it. Take everything off that you said, but leave everything on that I said.
Okay, that sounds fair enough. Okay, 10 seconds. Now I gotta block that out, turkey. Okay, I backed it up 5 seconds just so we have a little orientation there. Here we go.
How does he come to this radical conclusion? Well, Farley supports his assertion by citing Hebrews 7:12, which speaks about a change in the priesthood and law. Hebrews chapter 7, verse 12, for when there is a change in the priesthood, there is necessarily a change in the law as well.
So question, though, is it says for when there is a change in the priesthood. When was there a change in the priesthood?
That was going to be part of my point.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, that's a good part of the point is that when is there a change in the priesthood? According to the Hebrew Bible, see Ezekiel chapter 45, Ezekiel chapter 46, the descendants of Levi are bringing the offerings in the temple. They are the priests. But how delusional do you have to be, or how not? Okay, I shouldn't say delusional, but how blinded do you have to be when the text that you are using to show that there is no change in the law literally says it is made of necessity a change of the law? That this is what I wanted to ask them if they came on the show. Okay, your Bible says that the law has to be changed. The premise of your entire video is that there's no change in the law. do you understand why I don't have a whole lot of confidence?
I see what your point
guys?
is now. Okay, it took me a minute to figure it out. So if he was a Christian, not a Messianic, then what he just said would have made sense.
Correct. Yeah.
But since he's a Messianic, him using that is foolish.
It's foolish.
Well, let me maybe not foolish. I don't mean to say that.
Well, it's not. Yeah. My point is the text that he's using literally says there's a change in the law, and he's going to tell you that, oh no, that's not what it means.
Yeah, right. That is pretty wild.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't catch that. That was good eye on that. Okay, here we go.
A change in the law as well. Here, the author of Hebrews is speaking about how Yeshua, who is from the tribe of Judah, serves as our high priest even though the Torah requires that priests only be from the tribe of Levi.
So he's admitting that they're changing the law by accepting him as...
Correct.
Right.
Oh, but no, we're not changing the law.
Right.
We're not changing the law. We're just changing the law.
Right. Okay, we go.
Okay.
Based on this verse, Farley concludes that the tribe of Levi.
Okay, so in addition to that, to be a king, you have to be from the tribe of Judah. So not only was Jesus not from Levi, but he was also not from Judah, according to New Testament beliefism.
Yes. Thanks for reminding me that.
Yeah.
I was going to point that out also.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's a good place. Indulge me, audience, because I do still read my Christian Bible, because I've given up on ever knowing a book of the Hebrew Bible as well as Rabbi Singer. Or maybe I can try one of the Christian books.
Yeah, for sure.
How is it in the 6th chapter of John? Okay, these two verses occur, verse 41 and 42.
John 6,
verse 41.
Okay.
The Jews then murmured at him because he said, I am the bread which came down from heaven. Jesus is manna. All right. Okay. Yeah. Which I got taught that in the church. I got taught that Jesus was the manna that came down on the Israelites.
The bread of life. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so we had to, and I think a lot of Protestant denominations do this, because in the Catholic Church, the wine and the bread literally become blood and flesh.
Sure.
Called transubstantiation. That's my big word for the show.
The transubstantiation, got it.
Yes, that's the Catholic teaching that the priest and the priest alone can change the wine and the bread into blood and flesh. Okay. Protestant Christianity rejects that, and they say that it is simply a symbolic. Jesus literally said, "This is my blood and this is my flesh." Mm-hmm. I think it's not a far reach to understand that he meant that symbolically.
Sure.
Regardless, because there's no such word as irregardless.
Really? That's new to me. I didn't know that.
Yeah. We just got learned up here in Indiana. And down there in Texas, you get learned pretty soon too. Anyway,
you learned me good.
In verse 41, after he says, "I am the bread which came down from heaven," then the Jews respond, which everybody's Jews that he's around.
Right.
And they said, "Is not this Jesus, the son of Joseph, whose father and mother we know? How is it then that he saith, I came down from heaven?" Well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
That's a big uh-oh.
Wait a minute. Since the sign was that a virgin would have a child, how is it, and we're expected to believe that 2,000 years later, but how is it that these contemporaries literally of Jesus had no clue, because they say, and this is recorded in the Gospel of John, they say, we know his father and his mother, Joseph, Mary, we know them. How is it that he thinks he came down from heaven? Well, wouldn't you know that Mary got impregnated by God? If you lived in Judea, all the time preachers are telling me, well, Philo attests to the virgin birth. No, he doesn't. Oh, well, Josephus attests to the. No, he doesn't.
Paul didn't even know of a virgin birth.
They don't even know.
Yeah,
Your own Christian Bible doesn't attest to the virgin birth here. How? Yeah. Why are you bringing in unbiblical sources when your own Bible doesn't?
Right. True.
So. But anyway, where was I going with that?
I don't know, but I have a comment that might trigger where you were going. So the Messianics, they like to use the remember I said the bread of life, right? And they say that the New Testament claims his birth to be in Bethlehem, and Bethlehem is two words together, Beit Lechem, which is house of bread.
House of bread, yeah.
Shouldn't he be from the house of unleavened bread? If at all, I'm just thinking,
You mean his father, Levi, the priest, Levi
Unleavened.
That's his full Levi. Levi is just a moniker. His full name is Unleavened.
No more Mountain Dew for you, buddy.
I haven't had any Mountain. Oh, I did have one Mountain Dew today.
Oh, see, there's the problem. And you spilled it all over your screen behind you. It's all green.
Oh no, that's my green screen.
That's your green screen there.
You know why they call it a green screen?
Why do they call it a green screen?
Because it's green.
I figured there was a good reason for it. All right.
Okay, keep going. Anyway, the change in the law. All right. There is some actual stuff here.
Yeah, right. Okay, here we go. Let me back up 5.
Though the Torah requires that priests only be from the tribe of Levi. Based on this verse, Farley concludes that the Levitical priesthood, and thus the entire law of Moses, has been overturned. Quote, "Today, Christians regard Jesus Christ as their high priest, but according to the law, Jesus as high priest makes no sense at all. How then can we rightfully look to Jesus as our priest today? If the priestly line has changed, then the whole system for relating to God has to be replaced."
Okay, let's stop right there.
Wow.
So where are we at on the time thing there on the?
You should be more concerned about our time.
That's what I was thinking too. We're taking way too long.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be one that we're going to finish. We'll do a second video on. Yeah, for sure.
We'll finish this.
We'll try not to do.
What's the time marker? What's the time marker on the video?
On the video is at 2 minutes and 50 seconds.
Oh my gosh, that's all.
Yeah, and we're already at a half an hour on a recording.
Okay. So. Let's go to 410. We'll just play all straight through to 410.
Okay, I'm gonna meet the mic.
This approach, they argue that there is no good reason to think that the author of Hebrews rejects the Levitical priesthood and Torah. Not only that, but they also argue that there are good reasons to think that he affirmed both, as New Testament scholar Matthew Thiessen writes. Quote, "There simply is no evidence in Hebrews that the author rejects the ritual and cultic aspects of the Jewish law. Rather, there is strong evidence that he thinks these aspects of the law remain in effect at the time of his writing." What is the strong evidence showing that the author of Hebrews affirms the priestly and ritual laws in the Torah? One piece of evidence is the fact that he says the Messiah serves as our high priest in heaven. Andrew Farley cited this fact as evidence that the Levitical priesthood is done away with, but ironically, this fact proves the opposite. The author goes to great lengths to explain to his readers how the Messiah can legitimately serve as priest despite not being from the tribe of Levi. Why? Because, as the author of Hebrews himself acknowledges, the law of Moses prevents Yeshua from serving as a priest on earth. Oh
my God. I think that's good that he said that. But he
Correct,
also is
yeah.
prevented from doing it in heaven either. I mean, come on. Can you, just because a person can eat pork, is not supposed to eat pork here on earth, does that mean they're allowed to in heaven, or vice versa? Or murder,
what would be, who would be the pig farmers in heaven?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, let's just, I still don't understand what these guys are thinking, because in the 7th chapter of Hebrews that he is using, the last verse, verse 13, remember, no, he's not doing away with the cultic commandments. He's not doing away with those. Well, then what does verse 13 mean when it says of chapter 7 of Hebrews that he's in that he saith, a new covenant, he had made the first old.
Yeah.
Now that which decayeth and waxeth old
what
is
chapter?
Ready to vanish away.
I apologize.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm in chapter 8. Oh,
okay,
sorry.
I was thinking that was
chapter 8. Sorry, no. Done. I apologize. I got
okay.
ahead of myself there a little bit.
That is
the very next chapter in the book that he is claiming doesn't end the Levitical priest system or the Mosaic law. And the author of Hebrews does not ever say any of this. This is all okay. Yes, he does. In that he saith, a new covenant he hath made. What's the first one? What's the first covenant?
Now, are you in 9 now?
No, I'm in 8:13.
Okay, and that's at the new covenant. Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah. In that he saith, a new covenant he hath made the first old. Okay, what's the first covenant? That's the
TaNaCh, yeah.
It's the Mosaic covenant. It's the Torah.
Yep, right.
That which decayeth and waxeth old is ready to vanish away. Well, so the book of Hebrews is written, it's hard to nail it down. For certain, the book of Hebrews is written before 100 of the Common Era. Okay, so it's written at least 1925 years ago. So if when this book is written, the Old Covenant, the Old Testament, is getting ready to vanish away, wouldn't it be vanished away by now?
If it's getting ready to vanish,
yep. Yeah, it does. Oh, well, 1925 years, that's not quite long enough for it to vanish away.
Remember, behold, I come quickly, and many of you standing here today will not taste death until the kingdom comes. Yes. Yeah, so all these things, same category.
Mark chapter 9. We're going to do a show on that again here coming up sometime soon, because
that's good.
It's a really good. It's a really good study to learn the absurdity of what supposedly Jesus taught. I agree with a lot of really good rabbis that a lot of what is put into the mouth of Jesus by the authors of the Gospels, Jesus never said.
Right. In fact, no one knows at all, because I find it interesting. It doesn't say, you don't find anywhere in any of the writings that Jesus said, hey, Greg McBride, write this down.
Hey, no,
you know
nothing at all.
And, so it's like,
and he was always telling his disciples, "Hey, now don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody.
Yeah, right.
Don't tell anybody."
And then they wrote it down. And then they wrote it down.
Okay, so they weren't following the words of Jesus.
Honestly, that's funny, because I never thought about that till this very second. Oh my Lord! Wow.
You're getting some learning again there.
That's funny.
Not learn. You're getting learned.
I'm getting learned. Learnt. Learn how to spell. All right.
Did we get to 410 yet?
We are at 5. Again. We're at 522.
Oh, 522?
Yeah, we already passed 410.
Right. Okay, go to 550.
550. All right, let's go here.
There's something in that 35 seconds that was relevant.
Okay, here we go.
As priests on earth. So then, how can the author of Hebrews claim that Yeshua serves as our high priest? The author of Hebrews answers this question not by saying that the priestly laws have been done away with. Instead, he explains that the Messiah's priesthood functions in heaven, where his tribal lineage does not restrict him from serving as a priest.
Sorry, one second.
Where,
So,
where do we have tribal lineage in heaven?
Yeah, right. I mean, where, and you can't just, the New Testament can't just make up ideas
No. Yeah.
that
So
are not supported by TaNaCh, and this is what they're doing. They're creating ideas that don't exist.
Ideas.
Yeah.
Yeshua, not found in the text, serves a priestly role in heaven, not found in the text, where his tribal lineage doesn't matter, not found in the text. Okay, right. What are you doing? So here's an interesting thing. See, I do learn some stuff when I study. I hate studying. I like to just read. But so when the Christian Bible says in the beginning of the 7th chapter of Hebrews, it says in verse 3 concerning Melchizedek, okay, it says, without father, without mother, without descent, having neither beginning of days nor end of life, but made like unto the Son of God, abideth a priest continually. Now, I remember when I was in the church, I was like 14 years old, and the preacher of the church recognized me, and he elected for me to do my own scriptural reading. He was Pastor John Beckler. I still have a soft place in my heart for that man. Even though he was a wonderful person, he really was. He's going to inherit a place in the world to come, even though he taught a lot of people to worship Jesus. But he was a kind soul. His wife was a kind soul. I thought that this is what the Hebrew Bible said about Melchizedek. It doesn't say anything of the sort. The king of Sodom went out to meet him on his return from defeating Kedorlaomer and the kings that were allied with him, 4 kings. Remember, 4 is always the number that opposes Israel.
Okay.
4 kingdoms, 4 empires. In the valley of Shaveh, which is the king's valley. But Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was a priest of God, the Most High. He blessed him, saying, blessed is Abraham of God, the Most High, maker of heaven and earth, and blessed be God, the Most High, who hath delivered your foes into your hand, and he gave him a tenth of everything. That's it. Now, in the Christian Bible, it screws up the things like it does in the 28th chapter of Ezekiel, where instead of the Christian translation saying, were you in Eden, it says, you were in Eden.
Oh, right.
It does the same thing here. Mm-hmm. It does the same thing here. It's Melchizedek is not the Most High priest. He is priest of Hashem, who is the Most High. And Melchizedek is Shem.
Yeah, I was going to say most likely it was Shem.
Yeah. Noah's son Shem. That's who it is. And this represents in the 14th chapter of Genesis. What's the first book of the Bible?
I have to go look.
I'll have to go look. This is like a shift, like from the people that lived before the flood being Hashem's people to now Abraham taking that mantle, just like Elijah transferred his mantle to Elisha. That's the same thing as here. This is what's happening. But when we only read the Christian Bible and we read, well, what do you think when you read the 3rd verse and the 4th verse of the 7th chapter of Hebrews? Well, this is somebody who exists eternally.
Yeah.
Well, who exists eternally? Well, Jesus exists eternally. Oh, well, that's Jesus. You see how you just paint Jesus into all of this stuff, and he's not there. So
Yep.
Do we have time for 1332?
Yes. Let's go there now. 1326.
Laws pertaining to the earthly sacrificial system still serve a valid function on earth. They simply were never intended to accomplish the perfection of the Messiah's heavenly priesthood. However, if the laws governing the Levitical priesthood are...
Okay.
Where do we learn of... okay, remember... and this is very confusing for Christians. I know it is, because I was a confused Christian. So Messiah just means anointed. Every high priest, every Kohen Gadol is a Messiah. Okay, he's an anointed person. Every king of Israel is a Messiah. He's an anointed person. Cyrus the Persian was a Messiah. He was an anointed person.
Right.
See Isaiah chapter 45. These are all Messiahs. Where were we told in the Hebrew Bible that a Messiah would serve as a priest in heaven? Where that again, they're making up concepts that are nowhere found in the Hebrew Bible. You will look throughout the Hebrew Bible and never ever see where a Messiah will assume a priestly role in heaven. What would that look like? I mean, how would that function? Are you going to take heavenly bulls?
Yeah.
Maybe that's why the Taurus, the bull, is a constellation in the heaven. That's where the heavenly priest goes to get his sacrifices. I've been watching way too much Ancient Aliens.
That's funny. That's funny.
So go a little bit more. We'll do. There's a little more here.
Okay, 1337. Now let me. Oh, I backed it up a little bit so we could. I think I did right. Yeah.
Heavenly priesthood. However, if the laws governing the Levitical priesthood are still in effect, then that does present a question. How can the Messiah be a priest?
Exactly. You guys, how can the Messiah be a priest in heaven? How can he be? I mean, where? And again, I wish, and maybe I am too abrasive when I take on some of these things, and maybe I know that when I ask people to come on the show, that they watch the shows and that they don't come on. Maybe they think I'm too not kind enough. But when they're spewing this kind of crap, I mean, how can you not be these? So the amazing thing is, we'll end it here, but these guys, again, they've all taken a cue from production values, because production values matter a lot. It really does.
Explain that, production values.
Production values. That's why I got a green screen now.
Oh, you mean production of their shows?
Of their shows,
okay.
Because they're they all have studios. Yeah, they all have cameramen. They all have just stuff, and they're very polished. And they don't ever tell any jokes either. I think that's bad. They should always tell some jokes. But I mean, they're influencing a lot of people, because a lot of people think, 119. Well, Psalm 119. That's the longest book in the Bible, and so these guys must know stuff. And you go on. They've got. I didn't go through all the videos they've got, but they've got probably. Well, you're getting close to 2,000 now, right? 2,000 total 2,000 total videos you're going to have pretty soon.
Close, yes, that's correct.
Yeah. Well, they don't have near 2,000, but I bet they've got over 200.
Right.
And so they're finding an audience. And I'll tell you this: I am, I guess probably by now I'm a very conservative type of a person. I don't care what people spend their money on. I really don't. But in order for you to sustain your channel, you have to have an income from it. That's just a fact. And if you can find an audience and serve that audience, more power to you. And 119 Ministries has found that audience.
Yeah.
And they're serving that audience that believes their stuff. But you should find, if you're a supporter of a channel, you should find a channel that speaks truth and speaks wisdom. And well, I guess that would exclude me. But they are claiming that the Hebrew Bible says things that the Hebrew Bible would have no clue what they're talking about. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. Christians, I don't care if you want to believe in Christianity, just don't say that the prophets of Israel support your religion.
Absolutely.
They do not. Yep. They do not. So
that's right.
We do have a famous guest who's coming on this month. Should we talk about him real quickly or not?
Sure, I would like to know who it is.
Well, Greg McBride is going to be on next week. Rob Solberg.
Oh, okay.
He's been on the show before.
Okay.
He is coming on. We just have to set a date, and he wants to do during the week, like we're doing kind of some late afternoon my time weekday shows.
Okay.
So that will probably there'll be one more show of this 119 Ministries, a little snippet of how in the world Jesus didn't lie when he said that the people that were alive would see the kingdom of God. And then the next show will be Rob Solberg. Today's what, the 15th?
Today is something like that, 12th, 13th.
12th, 13th. So,
13th,
so probably
today's Tuesday. Today's 14th. Okay.
14th. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So Rob Solberg has agreed to come back 13th. On.
13th,
he will be answering a question that he did not answer the last time he was on.
Okay.
And then some other stuff. So.
Okay,
all
very
right.
good. Well, thank you all for tuning in. We'll try to get these shows out once a week if possible, but be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and turn on all notifications so you don't miss anything. And we'll catch you, Hashem willing, same time, same place next week. Take care, everybody. Shalom. Bye.
If you enjoy this channel and the content, and it has changed your life, or perhaps the life of a loved one or a close friend, would you please consider supporting this work? You can click this link and it'll take you directly to my website with the donate button. Or there's a Patreon link and a mailing address for snail mail if you would prefer. If you do donate, please do me a favor and leave me a phone number where I can contact you and thank you properly. I hope you all have a wonderful 2025. Shalom.